I walk into the courthouse lobby telling myself this is just another formality, another stamp, another room I'll pass through and forget. But my palms are already damp, slick against the strap of my purse, and my stomach feels tight, twisted, like it knows something I don't want to admit. The air smells like polished stone and old paper, and every footstep echoes too loudly, announcing me before I'm ready to be seen. The opposing attorney spots me instantly. He doesn't even try to hide it. His mouth curls into a slow, satisfied smirk, and he leans toward his colleague, whispering just loud enough for the words to drift in my direction. I can't catch every syllable, but I don't need to. The tone is enough, mocking, certain, like a man who already believes he's won. Then I see her, Lauren Mitchell, my nephew's ex-wife, standing with a small cluster of friends near the benches. She throws her head back and laughs, light and careless, the sound sharp as broken glass. Her eyes flick over me for half a second. No warmth, no recognition, just a quick, dismissive scan, like I'm a stain on the floor she doesn't want to step on. In that look, she reduces years of my life to nothing. I take my seat, spine straight, chin lifted, telling myself to breathe. Ms. Martinez? The judge's clerk calls out. That isn't my name, not even close. Before I can correct him, a ripple of chuckles moves through the room. Soft, amused, indulgent. I open my mouth, then close it again as the heat crawls up my neck. The clerk doesn't apologize. He just moves on, already done with me. Lauren's lawyer stands and clears his throat, confidence dripping from every practiced movement. He begins presenting what he calls evidence, printed pages, highlighted lines, neat little charts. He talks about family accounts, about trust funds, about manipulation. He says my name over and over, each time attaching it to words like controlled, siphoned, abused, fabricated, every word of it. Gasps ripple through the gallery as the accusations are read aloud without warning, like a verdict being delivered before a trial even begins. I hear people shift in their seats, feel their curiosity sharpening into judgment. It's as if the room leans toward me, hungry. I feel every eye on my back, hot and heavy, pressing into my skin. It feels final, like my story has already been written and I wasn't invited to contribute a single line. I keep my hands folded in my lap so no one sees them shake. Lauren shakes her head slowly, dramatically, her lips pressed together in what looks like pain. She doesn't look at me. She looks at the judge, at the room, at the ceiling, anywhere but my face. She plays the victim perfectly, a woman wounded by the very family who once protected her. If there were awards for performance, she would take them all. I turn, just slightly, searching for one familiar face. My nephew won't meet my eyes. He stares at the table in front of him, jaw tight, shoulders tense. Fear sits on him like a weight, and beneath it, doubt. I can see it clearly now. Someone has been whispering in his ear, feeding him a version of me he doesn't recognize but is afraid to challenge. The realization hurts more than the laughter, more than the whispers. The judge finally speaks, his voice neutral, distant. He postpones the session, citing the need for further review. His words are careful, procedural, but the damage is already done. The lies are allowed to hang in the air, unchallenged, settling into the room like truth. When I step outside, the sunlight hits me hard, unforgiving. Reporters swarm immediately, microphones thrust toward my face, cameras clicking. "Are you the greedy aunt?" one of them asks, eyes bright with anticipation. Another voice overlaps, sharper. "Did you steal from your own family?" I don't answer. I can't. My throat is tight, sealed shut by something heavier than fear. As I push through the crowd, I hear someone mutter, not even trying to keep it down. "She looks exactly like the kind of woman who'd steal from family." That one lands deep. I keep walking, past the steps, past the cameras, past the voices. No one follows when the story feels finished. I leave the building alone, the summer heat pressing down on me, but it's nothing compared to the humiliation clinging to my skin. It wraps around my shoulders, seeps into my bones, and follows me all the way down the sidewalk, heavier than anything I've ever carried before. I remember the night everything changed, long before courtrooms and cameras, back when grief moved into our house and never really left. Daniel Harris was still a boy when his parents died in that car crash. One phone call, one scream down the line, and suddenly he was standing in my doorway with red eyes and shaking hands, asking if he could stay. I didn't hesitate. I just pulled him into my arms and told him he was home. From that moment on, my life bent around his. I worked double shifts at the diner until my feet burned and my back ached so badly I could barely straighten up at night. Grease under my nails, coffee stains on my apron, smiles forced for customers who never knew my name. Every dollar I earned went into envelopes I labeled carefully. College, books, future. I skipped meals so he wouldn't have to. I told myself sleep was optional, but his education wasn't. I taught him how to tie a tie the morning of his first school dance, my fingers clumsy but patient as I looped the fabric around his collar. I taught him how to stand up straight when people tried to talk over him, how to look someone in the eye without flinching. I taught him how to trust, even when life gave him reasons not to. And when he hugged me, awkward and too tall for his age, I believed it mattered. Years later, Lauren entered his life. She had a polished smile, the kind that showed all the right teeth at all the right times, but something about it felt cold to me, calculated. When she shook my hand, her grip was light, her eyes already scanning the room as if she were measuring what belonged to her and what didn't. I told myself I was being protective. I told myself to let go. When they wanted to buy their first house, they came to me. Daniel looked hopeful, nervous. Lauren smiled and talked about stability, about family. I loaned them the money without hesitation, trusting handwritten promises and familiar handwriting. I believed love was enough of a contract. Slowly, quietly, Lauren began to build walls I didn't see until they were already standing. She called it boundaries. She said Daniel needed space, independence, distance. Phone calls went unanswered. Invitations stopped coming. When I asked, Daniel's voice sounded rehearsed, like he was reading lines someone else had written for him. Then I noticed the withdrawals. Small amounts at first, easy to miss. I managed the account set aside for Daniel's education, had done it for years without a single issue, but numbers don't lie, even when people do. I checked again and again. My chest tightened as patterns began to form, neat and deliberate. I confronted Lauren privately in her kitchen, the smell of lemon cleaner still sharp in the air. I asked calmly, carefully. She didn't deny it. She just looked at me with that same polished smile and told me to stay in my place. The words were soft, almost kind. The meaning was anything but. That night, Daniel accused me. He stood in front of me, arms crossed, eyes hard in a way I had never seen before. He said I was controlling his life, that I had always wanted to own him. The words didn't sound like his. They landed wrong, heavy with someone else's voice. I tried to explain, but he cut me off, anger flaring where trust used to live. In that moment, I realized what had happened. So, my role as protector had been quietly rewritten as villain. Every sacrifice, every late night, every dollar saved had been twisted into evidence against me. I walked out of that conversation feeling smaller than I ever had, like the ground beneath my feet had shifted without warning. I carried the guilt with me everywhere, in the grocery store, in the quiet of my living room. I replayed every decision, wondering where I went wrong, how love had turned into accusation. I blamed myself for trusting too much, for holding on too tightly, for not seeing the danger sooner. And eventually, I told myself that love sometimes means stepping back, even when it hurts. I told myself that if letting go was what Daniel needed, I would do it silently. I didn't know then that my silence would be used against me, or that the story being told about me was already setting the stage for something far more brutal. The rumors don't creep through town. They sprint. By the next morning, my name is already being spoken in lowered voices at the grocery store, at church steps, at the gas station. People don't ask what happened. They tell each other what they think happened. Lies move faster when they sound exciting. At work, my manager calls me into her office and won't meet my eyes. She folds her hands, clears her throat, and says it might be best if I take unpaid leave until things clear up. The words are careful, professional, but the message is clear. I'm a risk now. I nod because arguing feels pointless, and I walk out past coworkers who suddenly find their screens very interesting. My phone goes quiet. Friends who used to call just to talk stop reaching out altogether. Invitations disappear. Texts go unanswered. No one wants to be associated with the woman everyone is whispering about. Isolation settles in, thick and suffocating like fog that doesn't lift no matter how long I wait. Then the official papers arrive. Lauren files a civil suit, bold and confident, accusing me of embezzling family trust funds. Seeing it in black and white makes my chest tighten. It's one thing to be gossiped about. It's another to be formally branded a criminal by someone who knows exactly how much I once sacrificed for her husband. I try to call Daniel. It goes straight to voicemail. I text him, careful with every word, desperate not to sound defensive. No reply. Days pass, then weeks. He stops answering completely, cutting me off as if I never raised him, never loved him, never mattered. The emails start coming late at night. Anonymous, vicious. They call me a parasite, a fraud, a woman who stole from her own blood. Each message feels like another shove, pushing me closer to the edge. I stop checking after midnight because sleep becomes impossible anyway. Then the bank letters arrive. Formal envelopes, cold language, accounts frozen, funds I legally manage locked without warning. I sit at my kitchen table staring at the pages, hands trembling, realizing how quickly everything I built can be taken away. This isn't just embarrassment anymore. This is control. This is strangulation. That night, I pull out boxes I haven't opened in years. Old files, receipts, emails printed and clipped together with careful notes in my handwriting. I spread them across the dining table and start digging, hour after hour, the house silent except for the soft rustle of paper and the ticking of the clock. I follow dates. I follow numbers. I follow trails no one thought I would bother to check. Patterns begin to emerge. They don't point to me. They point away from me, directly toward Lauren. Halt! I notice signatures that don't quite match, timestamps that don't align, documents altered just enough to pass a quick glance, but not a careful one. My heart pounds harder with every inconsistency I uncover, fear mixing with something sharper, stronger. Every discovery fuels equal parts dread and determination. Dread because I see how deliberate it all was. Determination because I finally understand the game being played. This isn't just about my reputation. This is about my survival. They want me broke, discredited, alone. They want me quiet. They want me buried under shame so deep I never fight back. Sitting there in the dim light, surrounded by proof, I make a decision that changes everything. Silence will only bury me deeper. And I'm done digging my own grave. The phone rings long after midnight, slicing through the silence of my house. An unfamiliar number glows on the screen. For a moment, I consider letting it go to voicemail. By then, I'm used to bad news. I answer anyway, my voice cautious, guarded. Miss Harris? A calm male voice asks. Steady, professional, not rushed. Yes, I say, bracing myself. My name is Mark Reynolds. I'm a forensic accountant. The words land differently than I expect. Not sharp, not threatening. He tells me he was hired by Daniel's employer during a routine audit. Just standard procedure, he says. But then his tone shifts, subtle but unmistakable. He explains that while reviewing related financial records, he came across transactions connected to my name. My chest tightens. Then he says it, slowly, carefully. What I found doesn't point to you, but it is deeply concerning. I grip the phone harder as he continues. He mentions irregular transfers, layered movements, patterns designed to confuse rather than clarify. He doesn't say Lauren's name right away, but I hear it anyway, echoing in my head. Before I go any further, he says, I need to know if you're willing to cooperate. I'd like to hear your side. The question almost breaks me. For the first time in months, someone isn't accusing. Someone isn't doubting. Someone believes me without hesitation, without needing to be convinced. I feel something loosen in my chest, a knot I didn't realize I was still holding. We meet quietly a few days later, away from offices and courtrooms. Just a small conference room, neutral walls, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. I bring boxes, folders, years of documents I refused to throw away even when everyone told me to move on. Mark listens, really listens. He reviews everything carefully, methodically, his eyes sharp, his questions precise. As hours pass, his expression hardens, not at me, but at what he's seeing. This confirms it, he finally says, tapping a document with his pen. Multiple instances of fraud, cleanly traced. He turns the papers toward me, showing me how the money moved, how my name was used as a buffer, a shield. Lauren positioned me perfectly, trusted aunt, long-term manager, so suspicion would never land where it belonged. The realization makes my stomach turn. I feel vindicated, yes, but also sick. Sick knowing how calculated it all was. How she didn't just want money. She wanted cover. She wanted me ruined quietly while she walked away clean. Mark doesn't sugarcoat anything. He tells me this wasn't accidental. It was planned, executed over time, patient. Then he tells me he's bringing in a legal team that specializes in financial crimes. Not generalists, specialists, people who know how to take complex lies and dismantle them piece by piece. When I meet them, they don't offer sympathy. They offer certainty. The truth is documented, one of them says, and it can be proven publicly. That word echoes in my mind. Publicly. I leave that meeting with my spine straighter than it's been in months. The fear is still there, but it's no longer alone. It's standing beside resolve, sharpened and steady. For the first time since my name was dragged through dirt, I'm not just defending myself. I'm preparing for one last confrontation. And this time, I won't walk in unarmed. The rescheduled court date feels nothing like the first. When I step inside, the gallery is full. Every bench occupied, the air buzzing with anticipation. Local media line the walls, cameras already raised, waiting for something to break. I feel their eyes brush past me, curious now, uncertain. The story has shifted, and they can sense it. Lauren arrives moments later. She walks in confident, chin lifted, already smiling for the cameras as if this is another performance she plans to win. She pauses just long enough for a photograph, her expression calm, rehearsed. For a brief second, our eyes meet. She looks past me, certain I'm still harmless. She's wrong. Before the proceedings even begin, my legal team stands. Their movements are precise, controlled. They submit new evidence, thick folders passed forward with quiet authority. The room stills as the judge flips through the documents, his expression tightening with every page. Malk, this court will review this immediately, he says. Open court. Lauren's smile stiffens. Mark takes the stand next. His voice is calm, measured, impossible to shake. He explains the money trail step by step, breaking down years of transactions in language even the gallery can understand. He doesn't rush. He doesn't dramatize. He lets facts do the damage. Screens light up behind him. Bank records fill the room, transaction paths mapped clearly, my name appearing again and again, not as the thief, but as the cover. Lauren's digital fingerprints are everywhere. Dates, amounts, patterns too consistent to deny. I hear the whispers before I see her react. Lauren's smile falters, just a flicker at first, then another. Her jaw tightens as the murmurs grow louder, curiosity turning into suspicion, sympathy draining out of the room she once controlled. Her attorney jumps to his feet, objecting again and again, his voice climbing higher each time. There's desperation in it now, sharp and unmistakable. The judge overrules him without hesitation. I glance at Daniel. He's staring at the screen, frozen. His face drains of color as realization crashes over him all at once. I see the moment everything he was told shatters, replaced by a truth he can no longer avoid. The judge turns his attention to Lauren. He asks her directly about forged signatures, about altered timestamps, about transfers made under my authority but without my consent. His questions are precise, surgical. Lauren opens her mouth to answer, and nothing comes out right. She stammers. Her composure cracks, fractures spreading across her carefully built image. Her words trip over each other, explanations collapsing before they're finished. The room watches, silent now, as the mask slips completely. The judge doesn't raise his voice when he issues the warrant. He doesn't need to. The order for further investigation into her accounts lands heavier than a shout ever could. Nutter! In an instant, the energy in the room flips. Reporters pivot, cameras swinging away from me, lenses locking onto Lauren as she shrinks back in her seat. Questions explode around her, sharp and relentless. The woman who walked in smiling can't even look up. I stay exactly where I am. I don't smile. I don't speak. I don't defend myself. I sit silently, hands folded, heart steady, letting the truth do what I never could. It speaks for me. The charges against me are dismissed within days. No spectacle, no dramatic announcement, just official papers stamped and signed, quietly erasing the lies that once carried my name. I hold the document in my hands longer than necessary, letting the finality of it settle into my bones. Soon after, my bank calls. Accounts restored, restrictions lifted, formal apologies delivered in careful, measured voices. The numbers return to the screen, exactly where they were always supposed to be, and for the first time in months, I can breathe without calculating what I'll lose next. Lauren's assets are seized, pending trial. The news reaches me secondhand, spoken in hushed tones, as if people are afraid to say it too loudly. The woman who tried to bury me now watches her own world freeze piece by piece under the same system she once hid behind. Daniel comes to see me one evening without calling first. When I open the door, he's standing there with red eyes and slumped shoulders, looking younger than I remember. His voice shakes as he apologizes for doubting me, for letting others poison his mind, for turning away when I needed him most. He says my name the way he used to, careful and unsure. I don't interrupt. I let him speak until the words run out, until the weight he's been carrying finally spills into the open. For the first time since this began, I feel something close to peace. Not because he apologized, but because I no longer need him to understand in order to stand whole. At work, I'm reinstated with public support. My employer makes a point of welcoming me back, correcting the distance they once created. Colleagues smile too brightly now, conversations stopping when I enter, then starting again as if nothing ever happened. Outside, neighbors who once crossed the street to avoid me now offer awkward nods and half smiles. Guilt lingers in their eyes. I return the gestures politely, without slowing my steps. Interview requests come in waves. Stories want my face, my voice, my pain packaged neatly for consumption. I turn them all down. Privacy feels like a victory no one can take from me. One afternoon, the diner where I once worked calls. They invite me back for coffee on the house. When I walk in, the smell of grease and coffee hits me like memory, but this time it doesn't hurt. Someone slides a mug across the counter and says, "You always deserved better." I nod, accepting it without needing to respond. I walk home feeling lighter, as if years of tension have drained out of my shoulders, leaving space for something steadier, something calm. Aunty, justice didn't scream. It didn't need to. It revealed. I look back now and understand how close I came to losing everything simply by staying silent. I thought dignity meant enduring quietly, that keeping my head down would protect me. Instead, silence almost erased me. It almost let lies become my legacy. There were nights when shame pressed so hard on my chest I could barely breathe. I questioned myself, my choices, my worth. I stood on the edge of breaking more times than I can count, wondering if it would be easier to disappear than to keep standing in a world that had already decided who I was. But truth doesn't need volume. It doesn't need shouting or spectacle. It only needs time. Time to surface. Time to corner lies until they collapse under their own weight. If you're watching this and you've been falsely accused, mislabeled, or buried under someone else's story, hear me clearly. You are not weak because you were targeted. You were targeted because someone believed you wouldn't fight back. Dignity is a weapon no one can steal from you. They can drag your name through dirt, strip away your comfort, turn faces against you, but dignity stays sharp if you refuse to surrender it. I understand now that revenge was never about hurting her. It was about freeing myself from the version of me she tried to create. It was about reclaiming my truth and letting it stand without apology. I remember walking out of the courthouse that final day. No cameras chasing me, no questions shouted, just my own footsteps on stone. The sun felt warmer on my skin, like it had been waiting for me. The air felt lighter, easier to breathe, as if the world had finally exhaled with me. They expected tears. They expected collapse. They expected me to shrink. What they didn't expect was strength. If you've carried a story like mine, I invite you to share it. Your voice matters more than you've been told. And if you want to hear more real stories of justice, of quiet survival turning into undeniable power, subscribe and stay with me. Because the one thing I know for sure now is this: never underestimate the woman who survived quietly.